What's up guys? Welcome back. Today, we're gonna be playing with the new powder eyeshadows from Glossier. Yeah, right? Powder eyeshadows from Glossier. I've been a Glossier rep since 2017. They didn't have very many products when I was first onboarded, and even when they came out with the lid stars, it was like Glossier always wanted to make hero products that were different in formula, different in concept, different in application, different in the way that they looked and the way that you interacted with them than any other format of that product. And I think that that's why their releases were always so hotly anticipated. It was like, what kind of spin is Glossier gonna take on X item of makeup? So I was a little bit surprised to see them come out with these monochrome trios. So they are called, monochrome essential eyeshadow trios, and they are all in like one shade each. So this happens to be Jute, and it's a matte, a shimmer, and a satin of each shade. I picked up 4. I had a lot of thoughts going into this. You guys saw that on my tepid takes video. The main one being that 3 of the same color inside of one palette to me says I need to buy more than one, but at the same time, I understand the kind of one and done flexibility of like having the color that you like to wear and wanting to play with the way that the light interacts with that. So I've got all my makeup on. I'm gonna just basically choose one and do a full look with that, and we will test the potential of buying one and getting a real eye look out of it, and then I will use the other ones to fill in the way that I would typically do an eyeshadow look, using cool and warm and different textures to show you guys like my ideal situation with these. And then I will like go over the claims and everything, the prices and stuff, be pretty quick about that, and I will close with my final thoughts on these, not just as it pertains to like whether it's a quality product, but also how it falls in line with Glossier's entire brand structure, as well as kind of the, my marketing mind on them. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump in. I feel like I get really serious when I'm talking about Glossier now, because it's like they're part of my family. You know how blood is thicker than water, and so you're always going to love them, but release by release by release, I'm like, do I like this, So understand that I'm coming from that angle. We have a long history, but this surprised me mainly because Glossier is now in a larger sandbox, right? This is the thing that many brands have as their very first releases. Like, look, I wanna make a makeup line because I think that I can make a really bomb eyeshadow palette. And they said, we're going to, years into our existence, create a powder eyeshadow compact. You kind of have to blow people's minds with it. It has to have some kind of differentiator. So one of the big differentiators here is that this is refillable. So this is tin right here. And then this, if I can do it, okay, maybe not, I'm gonna ruin my manicure. It pops out, fam. This little guy pops out the whole trio, and you can basically buy more as you're done with it. I'll go ahead and swatch to show you guys the 3 textures of each, as well as the shades. Okay, so I've got mattes, the satins, and then the shimmers over here. So you can see very tonal meaning they're all the same color, same temperature, same saturation level. The only difference in the shades is the finish. So in order there, we have Jute, Mist, Almond, and Heather. I went with the colors that I felt like I would wear. There are some more adventurous shades by my standards, but these are definitely the ones that if I were kind of throwing a palette together, it is what I would choose. So I think I'm going to go with Almond to show, I feel like, the one and doneness of it. That's what we're gonna do first. And they say you can go in with your fingers, you can go in with a brush. I'm gonna start with a brush, show you guys the formula, just as a standalone product. Like, is this a good eyeshadow formula? So I would typically go into my crease. I will say the shades are beautiful. I really think they did a good job with the shades. That's been a criticism of mine before. They just kind of try and go a little too like different for no reason sometimes, or they have with other releases. I would be left with like 0 options sometimes. in their products because they would all have some kind of funky shift to them. And these are extremely straightforward. Like even the shimmers don't have a duochrome. They're just, I mean, actually, I think one of them, I think Heather, has a tiny bit of a duochrome to the satin. Like if you look at that, it kind of goes pink purple, you know? But that is the closest that I saw. Like, I can't freaking see what I'm doing. Is that better? Hey. It's been quite stormy here lately. I'm not complaining, I just have trouble seeing. My husband's entire side of his family has a sensitivity to light, and so he doesn't like overhead lighting or anything like that. And his whole family's like that. If you get them on FaceTime, they're all sitting in the dark. They will all turn the lights off when they walk into a room. It's very, very interesting. And they all like keep their sunglasses on inside and like forget that they're wearing them. And then I have just poor eyesight. So I'm always like, why is it so dark in here? I'm that person. So, okay, that's the matte. And so gorgeous. It definitely, like in comparison to some of the other ones, looked like it was going to be kind of warm, but it's like this perfect neutral kind of taupey brown. I would then probably, you know, go in with our friend, the satin, and probably go on my outer corner here. And I do have to think kind of creatively because my brain goes to, well, what's going to be the best way to convey an illusion? And I don't just want to play with texture when I'm thinking in those terms. I also want to play with like light. I feel like this framing's a little bit unfortunate. Is that better? Hi. So it does kind of bend my mind a little bit to have to think like, okay, if I'm going to typically convey an illusion using certain colors and certain temperatures, like how do I shift that to just be a textural strategy? And I don't think that it's impossible, but I do think that it's gonna end up a little bit flat, or I'm going to have to pull something else out. So the last step here would probably be our shimmer friend. And just going to use that to build a little bit of a light illusion there. That, you know, my eyelid is bigger and more luxurious than it actually is. Really get that right up into the center of my socket. Et voila, right? You know, that's kind of the essence of what I feel like can be achieved with one color. And then I would typically throw on like an eyeliner and a mascara, and you know, that's very, very pretty. But I want to show you guys like my druthers of what I would do, you know, now with all four of these. So I'm going to start with Mist because it is just the perfect lavender, cool toned, beautiful little palette. And I'm going to use the matte in that to cool off my crease, and it will immediately make my socket look like it's dropping away from the eye. I've been trying to figure out how to like package a video just showing the importance, honestly, like pleading my case of why I think that color theory is so important. And it's not just about getting foundation and concealer skin match perfect. I mean, obviously that's great. That's the first thing we think of a lot of times when we're talking about cool and warm, is matching our skin tone properly. But taking it one step further, understanding why sometimes our makeup doesn't look quite right because we are playing with temperatures in the wrong places and it's tricking the eye in the wrong way. So, as you can see, that little bit of lavender in the crease made a big difference, at least to me it did. And so that's going to, again, be such like a necessary thing in my routine. And then I would take like Jute right here, which has these kind of lighter shades in it. And this is where I would pull, you know, a little lid highlight from. Even though it's a little bit cooler toned, I just like the color of it. You know, there are rules, but then the rules are also meant to be broken. And I would just put that right there, kind of on the lash line a little bit and spread it out up towards the crease. And so then I have Heather, which is a, you know, neutral purple, plum kind of color. And I think that that's what I would use kind of on my outer corner to give it a little more freaking life, you know? And I'm using the shimmer, not the shimmer, the satin version of this. And just, that's muddy. Huh, the finish didn't work as well as I thought that it was going to. Let's just blendy here. Use a little bit of mist, which is that original lavender, to blend a little bit more. You know, get a little drama going. And that's all the depth. I don't have anything in this repertoire in order to pull the light back out, so I have to go into my Aether highlighter here, and I'm going to grab a little pencil brush or something similar and just bring some light back in. And this is the beige. This is the one that I pretty much always use if there's no highlight in a palette. Okay, so I made a little bit of mud. The problem happened when I decided to put Heather like on the outer corner. It hit capacity on blending, and it just got muddy. So I'm just gonna finish off with some eyeliner and mascara real quick, and we will come back and talk about all the claims and stuff. Okay, so that is the vibe today. What is happening on my face right now. And I just kind of wanted to show you guys a couple of things here for comparison's sake, because it's important, I think, when we're looking at these to step outside of your feelings on Glossier one way or the other. They have stepped outside of their feelings on themselves by putting this product out, by putting out just like a powder eyeshadow, and you're gonna be in the sandbox with all the other powder eyeshadows. So that is where we're starting. So I really feel like the colors that I chose that ended up on my eyes, especially the look that I ended up with the first time that I tried them, I was like, this looks eerily familiar. Like, I love this for very, very worn-in, homey feeling reasons. And I was like, wait a second. It is so similar. So similar. Like, these shades are so similar. If I were to like pop all the pans out, I would be able to probably find something to create almost exactly the same look out of the Aether, the new, or even the old Rose Quartz palette, right? It's all the same kind of tones and the same kind of use it straight from the pan saturation, the ones that I chose. The one thing that I did find though was that when we're talking about pigmentation, Glossier and Aether are very, very different. So like, this is Glossier, it's such a sheer wash, and then this is Aether. So if that's something that's important to you, understand that Aether's the way to go if you want that kind of pigmentation on that kind of color. And if you want something that's really, really sheer and doesn't pick quite as much up on the brush, then the Glossier, you know, could be a really good option for you. It's just like surprisingly low pigment by comparison. Another one that I felt like was comparable because of the different textures, all kind of in the same tone values. This is the almond one, the one that I started with that, you know, I did basically as the standalone. And then this is the Pearl palette from Wayne Goss. And I feel like those browns are very much there. The pink in here, the very bridal pinky purple, is very, very different though from this one, but I feel like when you mix those together with the gray, you know, you could achieve something very similar to this as well. I also think that it bears comparison just because we are talking about the purples that I love in my life. You know, the Divine Rose palette is going to have all those purples, that lovely kind of medium magenta color, but with a little bit of a different shift to it. You know, your medium pearly shades. Very, 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 very similar. I think that the one thing that it doesn't really have maybe is that exact warmth there, but very, very similar. So obviously this is $125. All four of these together was $88, so use your discretion. This is apples and oranges, but I wanted to compare the shades and also kind of roast myself a little bit because it is very evident to me that I have a type. I have a flavor that I prefer as far as color schemes go. And when I am left to my own devices to create my own color scheme, well, I tend to go for the familiar without realizing it. So let's kind of deep dive on the actual claims on this, okay? Okay, so we have 10 colorways in this. We have Clay, which is a rich terracotta, Bluff, which is a pale peachy pink. So I don't think that the one that I got, Jute, is the actual lightest. I could have gone for Bluff and had something probably more in the family of a brow and inner corner highlight. I'm just guessing, but also it looks very Aether Rose Quartz palette to me. Mist, which I did have, is described as a cool lilac. Jute is a soft taupe. Almond is rosy brown. They also have Prairie. Prairie almost made it into my cart. It's a rich olive. Rosin, I'm sorry, probably rosin. Rosin like you put on like a reed, right? For wind instruments. Rosin is a gold yellow. Mesa is a warm orange. And Teak is a warm chocolate brown. Oh, and Heather is neutral rose. Like I said, they are $22 a piece, and it says formulated without talc, natural mica, and fragrance. Recyclable, dermatologist tested, ophthalmologist tested, suitable for contact lens wearers and those with sensitive eyes. How to use? Use the shader end of the eyeshadow brush to apply matte and satin directly onto eyelids. Use your fingertip to apply metallic finish. Blend out all the finishes with the blender end. So yeah, I think that that's the essence of it, right? I think that we can move into my final thoughts, but I want to start kind of by pros and consing it. Pros, these shades are gorgeous and the formula is gorgeous. I really do like it, even though it is very different, like I said, from Aether, for example. In the pigmentation, it is very, very buildable, super easy to work with. For them debuting their first powder eyeshadow, all three are just winners. They're really, really beautiful. They're right squarely in the middle of, you know, a high quality version of a matte, a shimmer, and a satin. I have absolutely no complaints about the formula. I have no complaints about the shades. I think that the shades that they put out are really, really awesome. Another positive to me is, like, if this is your delivery system, a lot of people don't want a whole palette of eyeshadows and they do want someone to kind of break it down and make it easy for them. And maybe it is fun to have 1 or 2 or 4 of them the way that I do, open them all up or travel with them or just pick one each day, what have you. And like that conciseness kind of takes the decision making out of your makeup routine and makes it more fun for you. That simplification is ideal for some people. For me, being someone who is like, so, like I said, temperature oriented and like color theory minded, this does feel like working with one hand tied behind my back, but I do have to recognize that that is super personal and that for some people this is a format that really, really speaks to them. And I don't want to say like that is wrong. It's not. Especially some of the more bright shades, I could totally see someone being like, I want 3 textures of this yellow and that's gonna really like complete me, because there aren't a lot of palettes that do that. And also the owner of Phytosurgeons and I were messaging back and forth, and he was saying, you know, it kind of reminds me of the Tati palette, the way that she put out, what, 4? Is that it? Yeah. 4 textures in every shade, because that's what made sense to her, you know, to be able to make decisions first and foremost on the colors that you want to use, and then be able to have every texture to be able to play with within that shade value, right? And that is sort of like deconstructed what's happening here, minus the, you know, amazing crazy glitter. I'm going to talk about the cons now, and this is kind of where I put my marketer hat on and also my slightly cynical, I've been playing with a whole lot of makeup for a whole lot of years hat. Multiple hats, many hats on my head right now. Just imagine them. So the first thing is, and this was like the first thing that occurred to me, and also what I heard State of Kate say, she was like, hey, there are room for 4 pans in there. There's room for 4 pans in there, and there are only 3. Why? Whence? Why not 4? It would have been perfectly fine to put 4 palettes or 4 pans in there, but we have 3. It would have been actually really nice to have a highlight shade in there or a glitter. Glitter would have been really neat. Their history with glitter has been a little bit spotty because they did get so much heat for the glitter gelées because glitter is not super biodegradable, what have you, but it would have been, I feel like we could have done more with this space is all. The other thing is, again, from a completely personal standpoint, I find this very limiting. You know, just to have them all be the same saturation value, the exact same color, and then I am going to have to pull something else out. Now, I didn't need to pull out as much as I did today. Okay, I made mud. I fully admit that. But I would always want to, if I'm gonna be working in here, I would also want to pull out like jute, you know? I want to be able to have a little bit of brown with my purple or something just to kind of selectively muddy it up and build a little bit of shadow, build a little bit of illusion. And I'm always gonna have to pull out some kind of highlight. Yes, I could have bought the, you know, the lightest one probably and it would have worked just as well. My point is, I would not be able to function with just one of these unless I just used one color out of it and that was it. And then what's the point of having all three kind of thing? And then my brain went, okay, well, you know, maybe this is really neat. Like maybe we could just buy the replacement pans as singles and we can make our own palette, except that, and by God, I'm going to pull the darn thing out. This is the replacement. I'm not sure if you could depot these in any kind of, I'm sure you could, you know, heat the bottom, use like a piece of floss or something. But what would be the point, right? The whole idea here is that these come in trios and you can't break up the trio. And I found that to be a little bit frustrating because it's like if I bought 4 of these or even 3 of these and I really enjoyed like a certain texture of each color, I would want to be able to mix and match and make a travel palette of my own, kind of Salt New York style. And then I thought to myself, well, maybe I can, maybe at least it's magnetic so that I could put it into a Salt New York palette and have like all of them with me instead of having to keep, you know, opening up palettes over and over again, like carrying all these tin palettes around. It's not magnetic. It doesn't stick to the inside of this the way that, you know, other metal pans do. I guess the plastic is just a little bit too thick for it to like respond to the metal. That was a shortcoming to me too. I found that it just wasn't super practical in the way that it's packaged, and the way that I feel like dovetails into my experience overall with Glossier. As you're growing as a company and you're trying to grow alongside your audience, like I have been, you know, basically crediting them with doing with this release, you also have to understand that you are now in like an ocean of competitors, right? Does this either attract a new audience of people who are more interested in powder eyeshadows but aren't really Glossier devotees, and or does it satisfy the Glossier devotees who are getting older and wanting other things? Or they just want a powder eyeshadow. You don't have to be old to want a powder eyeshadow. That's not my point. I guess I'm just saying this is a little bit more mainstream. It's a little bit more conventional beauty. There's a brush involved, things like that. They are playing in the general makeup sandbox instead of trying to make a hero product, I guess is all I'm trying to say. Does it do one really well? I'm not totally sure. And I think that what saves them here is, like I said, the colors are gorgeous and the textures in the formula are like spot on. I just feel like it's a little bit half-baked as it pertains to wanting to make this something that's customizable. Like I don't think that that's what they were going for, but that's what it feels like they should have been going for to me. Like a Glossier eyeshadow palette of powder eyeshadows needed to be more innovative than this. And if it were me, I would just buy the Divine Rose palette or buy the Aether palette for these shades and not have to open 4 compacts. It's just a little bit inefficient to me, especially in a format that is trying to be more efficient. You know what they should do? You know what they should do? You know what they should do? You know what I bet they're going to do? I bet they'll put out something that holds multiples of these, like a 4-pack, like a big, you know what I mean? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 2. Oh, they should have snapped together like the Fenty ones. See what I mean? There are so many companies who have put out quads that are an idea, that are still tonal, but they get the job done because there's a little bit more depth in the mattes and a little bit more lightness in the shimmers and things like that so that you can actually build dimension. This is not a new idea. It's just like, it takes so much to pull yourself out of the Glossier mindset and see this for what it is, which is a little palette of eyeshadows that like Fenty makes and e.l.f. makes and Huda makes. Like there are these kinds of things that exist and you know, ColourPop, like things like that. But I guess, yeah, what I was saying was, you know, it would make sense for them to put out something that holds a couple of them or something. I would just have really, really liked if I could rearrange the colors and have like a 3-pan or a 4-pan of what I want, not all the same color. But that wasn't the assignment, was it? So anyway, those are my thoughts on this today, guys. I would love to know your thoughts. Are you the kind of person who this answers all of your concerns, this ticks all your boxes, and a large palette totally overwhelms you? Or are you like me and you're like, I would have had to order 3 of them for it to make any sense for me, and I would rather just buy a regular palette at that point? And I'd love to know kind of what you think that this is saying from Glossier's standpoint as to where they're moving as a brand next. So yeah, guys, I hope that you found this useful. Let me know your thoughts, and if you did, give it a thumbs up. If you want to keep hanging out with me on this channel, hit the button down below and subscribe. I would love it if you guys did. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.